Welcome back, friends. This is the Stress Management Clinic, and this is class number 6. So we've had an incredible series. We're learning about healthy eating, we're learning about daily movement, and how to deal with so many different stressors in our life. Chris, it's good to see you again.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You're looking well.
Thank you. I feel good.
Have you been practicing what we're teaching here?
Yes.
Wow. It shows.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you know what the name of this course is? Gain Energy, Lose Weight.
Oh, yeah.
So my curiosity to you, as you've been doing the practices, have you gained any energy?
Yes. Most definitely.
How so?
Well, I wake up in the morning and I feel more energized, and when I am doing the movements and drinking my water and
there you are.
And doing the stress management, that's been very helpful.
I am managing stress.
Right.
You just manage stress, just like you manage the laundry.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Trying to eat differently.
What changes have you made in your diet from the beginning of the course?
Unconscious eating. I'm not as eating unconsciously as I used to, or just like sitting down and eating a bag of chips because because I have low blood sugar. I'm trying to always take a lunch with me, although that doesn't always happen, and trying to eat less chocolate and sugar and stuff.
Well, trying is one thing and doing is another.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm doing better.
All right.
Yeah, I am doing better.
Good.
But I added some of the foods I've added to my diet have been really, really great.
Very good.
Yeah.
All righty. And have you lost any weight?
I've lost a couple of pounds, but more importantly, I've kind of lost inches and.
I agree. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Looks like you could gain some new clothing then.
I kind of feel like I'm more in my body.
Beautiful.
And, more.
Really, the point is not about the scale. It's about how we feel, how we perform, how we, appreciate life itself.
Well, I mean, I think that if I keep it up, I think that I could.
What might be a barrier or a threat for you to not keep it up? Well,
just, not continuing, having something change in my life, or I go on a trip, or I just let it slide, for today, I'll just let, going up and down the stairs slide, or any of those things.
I understand. So I think the difference is external versus internal discipline. External discipline, I'm doing it for someone else.
Right.
Or I'm doing it because I'm supposed to do it.
Right.
I'm doing it because I know I'm going to have to report.
Right. Yeah.
Internal discipline, I'm doing it because it's what I choose to do. And I'm beginning to recognize at this point, when I make good choices, I feel better. So have you kind of internalized how we're doing this? It's a lifestyle program.
Yeah. Yeah, I just hope I keep it up, So I feel like it's internalizing, and in particular, the way that I handle stress.
Yes.
And in particular, being aware of, when my body is really, just kind
listening.
Listening
to what you need. Listening to when you're tired. Listening to when you say, I'm at that computer desk too long. I will stand up. I will move. I will have a glass of water.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Listening.
Totally.
How good was that?
Really good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Totally.
Well, to conclude our stress story, in the last chapter, you mentioned Baha'i. I don't know what Baha'i is. You mentioned some kind of religious, spiritual kind of difference between you and your sister. Very succinctly, can you describe what that is and how you can make it work for the both of you in terms of your definition or your lifestyle around spiritual practice?
You want me to talk about like what I believe?
Yeah.
Or,
why not?
Oh, okay. Well, because I'm a Baha'i.
What is a Baha'i?
So a Baha'i is a follower of a man named Baha'u'llah, and he taught that there's really a religious progression in the world.
Okay.
That the different prophets that come herald new eras.
Oh.
And that true prophets, and that they bring change to society, and they're like the mouthpiece of God in a way.
Okay.
And in this day and time, we're entering into a day and age when we're all becoming united.
Doesn't look that way.
Well, I mean, the world is being forged into like a world community.
Yes.
And so, and that's great, and we have, and it's terrible, both, but we're being forged, and when we recognize our spiritual oneness, that God has created all of us, and to love God.
It sounds fairly standard to all religions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, people have their various beliefs. So, anyway.
So what's it look like in action? What's it look like when you're dealing with disputes or differences or all that? Or prejudice if it comes along?
Well, I try to remember that person is... I try to remember the oneness. I try to remember that person is like me, and that person has a spiritual, that God has created that person, and that person has a spiritual purpose.
Okay.
And if I run into disputes and that kind of thing, I try to communicate and remember that.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you saying,
I don't buy into the them and us.
Good. So what I'm hearing you saying is your particular religion, spiritual practice, is based on universal principles, that there's commonality between people, and that as yes, and the more that you're able to communicate that and accept differences as part of a diverse world, but underneath it there's a commonality and there's a purpose.
And there's even a value in the differing things.
But that's a fairly sophisticated point of view, I think. And that's, again, a way of coping, is relying upon your belief system, your value system, all that. And then without being preachy, just respond to people in a kind and loving way.
Well, it's about action.
Is that so?
It's about action and service as much as it is about, principle and...
Well, I think when we get into language, we can get kind of, again, confused or argue about this versus that and all that. But the point of this discussion at the end of a program is there's physical health, there's emotional health, there's mental health, there's social health, there's environmental health, and there's spiritual health or well-being. And holistic is the approach I've always taken. And what's been important, and something that is now not really hard for people to recognize, is that having some kind of a committed spiritual life with a service orientation enables one to live through the small kinds of problems or even some of the bigger kinds of problems and show up at the table with a different point of view that can influence other people even indirectly.
I mean,
indirectly.
Yeah, but I mean, I think everybody on the planet is struggling with how to do that, including me. You know, it's not like I know everything, but I think that we do have to get to a place where we can actually work together or rely on each other and actually see the purpose of our lives in a different light. See the purpose, a lot of things in a different light, and everybody's struggling with that,
All right.
regardless of whether they're spiritual or not.
So another way to frame this,
or whether they have any kind of spiritual orientation.
a way to frame it in less religious spiritual terms, because some people get a little put off by that. They do. Is attitude. Right? If you have an attitude of gratitude, if you have an attitude of service, you have an attitude of sincerity, humbleness, and you bring that forward, it's good.
Yeah.
And the effect that has on other people is to open them up to communicating in that way. So that's something to develop. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking about my sister. And you had asked about our differences. But, you know, after she wrote me that letter and everything, and I changed the way that I wanted to interact with her. After a while, she started inviting me to speak or to answer questions, and she sent me a couple of things that were really sweet. She's a painter, so she painted me something and put a quote from Baha'i writings and that kind of thing. And now, although she would never be caught dead going to a Baha'i meeting or anything, she accepts the fact that we are different. And I go to church with her, and I really enjoy it. I love it because she has a great church. So I think that if my sister and I can, come to a greater reckoning and understanding, I think almost anybody on the planet could.
Well, we have to work through our family differences. And we are getting older and wiser, or we're getting older and more cynical. Now think about that.
Yeah.
How many people do we see who have been wounded or hurt or just kind of given up, and who basically are toxic? And they're really into telling you just how rotten things are and how you can't trust this person or that person, and it's me against the world type thing. So again, in my kind of approach, it's like I don't really want to be around that. I don't really want to. I don't want to argue it. I don't want to,
But you don't really want it inside of yourself.
Well, of course not.
Because that's what you carry around all the time. And after a while, it gets so old. It's like it's like having toe jam or something,
Excuse me?
It's like having.
All right.
It's like having. It's like having, I don't know, rotten food in your refrigerator. At a certain point, you just have to.
So how can you communicate that to someone who is going on and on in a way that is really negative, toxic, and not working?
I think either just acting differently around them, trying to communicate with them, and or just avoiding it until and just acting in a manner that's loving and kind, but not buying into the toxicity.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Say, I hear what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, and I've gotten it. I'd like us to change conversation now. Because just being there and thinking good thoughts while the person is ranting, they're not listening, they're not responding. So at some point you have to say, okay, yeah, that's good, it's time to move on. Or